There's a ton of confusion going on. Two different themes. The police have to address the urgency if, in fact, there are two gun bearers in the Turkish restaurant. The other thing they have to do is start peeling the onion on the car that was there. There's a lot of confusion going on, but I can tell you this: the law enforcement authorities and the intelligence authority are in direct contact with the U.S. and looking to see if there has been anything that popped up on the grid that wasn't understandable until this event occurred. The other thing that bothers me a lot about this is, again, as other guests have said, it's an event coming up in Boston this weekend, the spillover from Charlottesville last weekend. And people of like mind to do that, they don't necessarily have to be ISIS folks, they have to be other terrorists, and one never knows if you're going to see that again. So I assume the Boston Police, the State Police, the Bureau, all the law enforcement agencies have got to be on edge this weekend in Boston with the event occurring here.
Absolutely. This is for now finding that person that may have been driving that van that we are told may have fled on foot. Do they have cameras, any kind of facial recognition that they can be employing right now there on the intelligence side of things so that they can then try and find that person who has dispersed himself into the crowd?
Identify the clothing and the general description of the individual fled. And I'm positive that they also have cameras, particularly in this tourist area, whereas it's normal that the other terrorists have hit tourist areas like this. The event person from escaping there, and to prevent other people from going into the tube or into public transportation to cause more havoc and kill more people.
Closely monitoring events in Barcelona, we urge Americans to stay away from the area and update family and friends with whereabouts. The U.S. Embassy in Madrid, we are aware of a reported incident at Las Ramblas in Barcelona. Please avoid the area and monitor local police as we do. Abby?
All right, Bill Gavin, relatively quiet. However, I think it's important to point out that in 2004, the largest terrorist attack on European soil took place in Madrid, and those were bombings on a train. There are periodically arrests of people in Spain who look like or who are accused of having links to ISIS. The migration situation here in Europe. About 100,000 people have arrived in Italy by sea this year alone. Most of those people are just looking for work, but there's always concern about infiltration in some of these migrant boats of people from northern Africa who may be extremists or have some sort of orders to carry out attacks here. And that has been a very nervous issue for Europeans, and Italy is recently pushing back against that, arming the Libyan Coast Guard, or I should say furnishing it with a lot of material in order to push some of these smuggler boats back to Africa. 3 times up from last year. So something like 8,000 this year, 2,000 the year before. The difficulty of controlling these people. European countries are under siege just by the sheer numbers of people who are arriving here, and it has hurt them, Abby and all.
Yeah, and I do want to interject there because we have no idea the identities of these people, how they may, for all we know, they could be citizens of Barcelona, people on the ground. Sandra and I have just watched a video, and I don't know that we would share that on television, but it is on Twitter right now, and it is what the RTVE public broadcaster was showing to people in Spain, and it shows clearly injured people lying on the ground and others rushing to help them in the middle of the street, apparently being helped by police officers as police were cordoning off the broad street and shutting down stores. So that would have been taken in the last hour or so. This happened at 5:45 local time there.
Background, we're keeping the president abreast of the situation. Always important to know if the president has been made aware of the situation. They are saying, yes, indeed, he has. No official statement yet from them.
So, Steve, I heard I too, but it is hard to watch.
Yeah.
Whomever has carried this out today has done the one thing that they set out to do, no doubt, besides the death, and that is to scare the world over when you see those images.
All right, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly keeping the president abreast of the situation in Barcelona. Washington. Catherine, what are you learning?
Well, just to recap, I've been making calls the last half hour. What I can say is that the U.S. government is engaged and monitoring what's happening right now in Barcelona. As we reported about 45 minutes ago, the NCTC, or National Counterterrorism Center, this is the nation's hub for threat analysis that was set up after 9/11. It's very focused on Barcelona. The details that are jumping out at them is the use of a rental van, as to whether they have offered to help the Spanish authorities as part of their investigation. They said at this point it's still considered an ongoing situation, and the Spaniards are obviously in the lead, but if the FBI can help in any way, they will offer that kind of assistance. The other thing that one of my contacts pointed out to me is that there has been discussion of who may have been responsible for this event. And just for some context, ETA, which is a domestic terrorist group in Spain, their typical MO is small explosive devices and not using vehicles as weapons. So I'll just put that out there to see how events develop in the next hour or so. Sandra.
Is that phrase that, frankly, especially when you see the kind of video that you were talking about, you see the devastation this is causing to people's lives, a phrase that makes me more and more angry, because you hear it every single time in the end after one of these attacks, and that is that the people who did it were known to the authorities. We heard that every single one of the attacks that you listed, Abby. Of course, we don't know if that's going to be the case here. No. We need to look out for that phrase. But the reason I bring that up is that when we ask the question, what can we do about this? Of course you can't turn our public spaces into war zones with barricades and so on. We have to live our lives. But when we know these people, it's a reasonable question to ask of our government, why aren't you doing anything if it turns out that in advance of all these attacks you knew these people, they were on your radar?
There's an update from Sky News coming in right now. I want to share this with you. They are reporting, according to local media, 3 people have been killed in this incident and at least 20 others injured after that van plowed into a group of people in the Las Ramblas area in Barcelona.
You know what? Have a good time. Terrorism, they want us to live in fear. They want us not to leave our apartments and our hotels. You know, everyone has now been told in that area to stay behind closed doors, you know, to close their blinds and to stay away from the streets. And that's how they want Western society to live.
That's right, and it's getting more and more frequent, and never mind the big impact on our societies, the individual impact on people and their families and their friends.
We've got a quick timeline now. 5:30 p.m. local time is when this started. Police in northern Spanish city of Barcelona, Ramblas district. Police said on their Twitter account at that police several injured, and now we know from what we've been reporting, Sandra just confirmed. We've been covering this for you on Outnumbered. Our Shepard Smith is on the Fox News deck.
Back to the live pictures, please. Thank you. Sky News is now reporting 13 people have died, and they believe that the death toll may increase. Harris mentioned just a moment ago that we're watching a video online that's circulating on Twitter now of the scene. We are not showing it at the moment because Spanish police have asked us not to, as it reveals faces of some of those who were either injured and then some who may have been killed, it appears from this video. So we're working to doctor this video so that the faces are not seen. You know, in an internet world, we do what we can. We're aware that families are home and summertime and kids are home, and I'll just tell you that the carnage on this scene is highly disturbing, and it appears from the video that this van didn't just come up onto a sidewalk and then crash into a few people. From this video, it looks like this van came up onto a pedestrian walkway, a sidewalk, and went for some distance. I wouldn't venture a guess at this moment, but down a city block at least, for there are victims to the left and the right. There are people bleeding in an outdoor market with others working to help them and trying to revive some. Just a scene of incredible carnage. Our sister network, Sky News, as I mentioned, is on scene and covering this live. Let's listen in there.
What the police and the security service need to do is make sure that continues. They do not want this situation spilling back out onto the streets where potentially more people get hurt now.
David, thanks very much. Well, as David just mentioned, what police and other security personnel were very keen on is making sure that people left the area or moved off from the streets inside. One of those, Mel Hick, we can talk to them now. Mel, thanks for being with us. You yourself were about a couple of streets away from the van crash and found yourself barricaded inside a shop, I'm told.
That's why I originally thought...
Yes, that's right, yeah. So I was with my two daughters, and we were walking down the Paseo de Gracia, which is sort of parallel one up from the Rambla, when suddenly people started running towards us, screaming and shouting, run, run, run. So I grabbed the two girls, and there was an orange phone shop was open. We ran inside, and they locked the doors of the phone shop. And we just all waited there.
It's about a 20-second video.
So it's probably about 20